Alright, here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try something a little bit different. Unfortunately, streaming has not been working to the way that we've been wanting it to, so we're going to go ahead and try this a different way. We're going to try to record this as a VOD. So there won't be a successful stream, unfortunately, due to some connectivity issues on my end. But we will go ahead and upload this as a full VOD. You did miss a little bit of lap 1, but as you can see, it is torrential downpour here at Imola. It is unfortunately, it's unfortunate weather for those who really do not like this kind of condition, but Seb right now is doing a fantastic job. Championship leader is chasing down the Ferrari of Mo Solver here. Let's actually take a look at the tire compound here, just to see where everybody's at. So it looks like about an even 50-50 split here amongst the 18 drivers tackling this grid here tonight. A good amount of them are running that intermediate tire, as D has a massive slide throughout the corners. So that is, it's tricky in these conditions. Imola is known for having its really interesting crossover points here in F125. Sometimes it just feels like that it's just so, I don't know how to really explain it. It's just sometimes the crossover window just feels so strong here compared to, or so long here I should say, compared to other circuits. We saw this a bit in the F2 race as Mo Solver has a bit of a moment there in the Ferrari, a bit of a slide for the Scuderia driver. We'll see if he can go ahead and try to put any kind of pressure on Seb, but Seb is just right now loving these conditions. Another thing too that's going to make this race even trickier for these drivers as we go around for the 32 laps on this circuit, it's that it can be so tricky to stay within the track limits, and it is very easy to get those track limit penalties here around Imola. That's just kind of the nature of Imola. It is a track that can produce a lot of good racing, as we saw in the F2 race that happened just before this race did, but we can also see a lot of penalties, just like we saw beforehand. So, interesting to see if these drivers can go ahead and keep their cool, as we're going to go and take a look in the battle between the two McLarens, both running the chrome livery that was added to the game about 2 or 3 updates ago, roughly. So we'll just see how this one all pans out. There's a lot to play for here in this race. Hopefully these drivers can go ahead and keep it clean long enough to provide some entertaining action, which, considering it's TFR, is of no real surprise. We do have a yellow flag, and that is O-Wise having a bit of a moment there in the wet. I know some drivers aren't really big fans of this track, and then you throw it onto the wet, and it's just that much worse. So that is just really tricky stuff. We'll take a look at how many positions were gained here. So not a lot in the top 3. The top 3 have pretty much stayed exactly where they are. Gagley is up 2. The biggest mover so far is Kaizi. I believe I'm pronouncing that right, as he's looking to make him another position. He is chasing down to kick Sauber of Jean-Claude, the reserve driver, under a lot of pressure from the Mercedes man, as we go ahead and make our way down to the final 2 corners of the circuit. I guess final 3 corners, considering there is a slight little kink just before the DRS zone. Although granted, considering the weather conditions, we are not going to have DRS, at least for a good while. It could be the entirety of the race. We'll just have to see how it goes. Some drivers do really good in the wet, and right now I think Keezy is having a really good move in the wet. But here we go, just directly behind in P10. Mustafa is going to go ahead and try to get ahead. I think he did get ahead of B29 here in the Aston Martin. Good position for him. It's really audacious trying to make these moves in these type of conditions. Now, it does appear that the Turkish drivers, so I've been told, which are the drivers with the PSR in their name, I believe for the most part, have been pretty strong here this season, so not super surprised. But sometimes drivers are really quick in the dry and not so much in the wet, so the Lone Haas is doing a really good job putting on some pressure onto VNT. We're going to actually switch back up here to the battle for the podium spot, as D is going to go ahead and try to put some extra pressure onto Mo Solver here. And Bora is the first driver to get a 3-second time penalty for track limit violations. The McLaren in P5, and I was talking about it a bit earlier on, that was going to be the case. And in case you're wondering why this whole thing may be a bit different compared to what you've been seeing across the season, both of the normal commentators here for the F1 division are unavailable. And so they brought me in. My name is Patrick Coleman, aka Rekkas. I'll be your host and commentator throughout this Grand Prix. I know it's kind of a bit of a hectic start and a bit of a different start compared to what you're used to here at TFR TV. So hopefully you guys don't mind it. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe. We are so close to 50 subscribers, and hopefully we'll see that before the end of the season. There are 3 more races left in the season after we wrap up here. We go to Singapore. I believe it is Singapore. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and check that really quickly because I know Singapore is our next track. So we're going to go ahead and head to Singapore as our next circuit. Let's actually just go ahead and check in the calendar. So Singapore, Japan, and Brazil are the final 3 rounds. So you guys will definitely want to stay tuned for that because we are going to have a lot of fun here. Yeah, just going ahead and letting some people know about the change in what's going on here. But we haven't seen the change for position here in the top 3. D is still trying to chase down Gagli here. But we are going to go ahead and see the progress of the Turkish driver of Mustafa. He's going to go to put more pressure onto the reserve, which the reserve driver has been doing a fantastic job here tonight. So good stuff for Jean-Claude in P7 in the Sauber. We'll see if he can go ahead and keep the hard-charging Haas behind, who seem to love these conditions here. Some drivers are really strong into it, like, actually, Mo Salver goes ahead and says the fastest lap of the race so far on the intermediates. And, oh, look at this. Oh, into the pits already for Jean-Claude. He might be trying to pull the trigger early and try to get these early pit stops in. We'll see if that's going to be the case here today. We'll see if that can go ahead and propel him up a bit. We're going to go ahead and check in on some of the other drivers. He is, I think, the only driver to actually go into the pits. So we'll see how that plays out. Imola does have some really long crossover times too, which makes it pretty interesting. And Bora Alkin goes ahead and gets another 3-second time penalty for track limit violations. That puts him up to 6 seconds. Kevin Cow is going to go ahead and get a penalty. B29 has unfortunately disconnected. So we're going to go ahead and try to get him on back in really, really quickly. We'll go ahead and try to get him back in. And we are... Sometimes EA servers do really funny things. So that is quite unfortunate. But sometimes EA servers do EA server things. Hopefully we do get B29 back on into the session. And it would be unfortunate for him to go ahead and lose this position like that. Up at the front, we do have a battle for the lead here between Mo Solver and Sev Goncalves. I might mispronounce that. CJ gets a 3-second time penalty. We didn't miss that one at all. But now it is a 3-way battle here for the lead. It's definitely now where the intermediates are definitely the tire to be on. We'll see if we're going to get a move here down into Tamburello. He shook for a move, but didn't quite get one. But, oh, look how close these two are. These two are so close here. Basically, front wing to rear wing, how close they are. Is he going to make a dive? No, but a bit of what might have been a bump between Mo and Seb here. We'll see. Oh, no space left. He went for a gap that did not exist. We know the famous Ayrton Senna quote of, if you no longer go for a gap that exists. But look at this now. Using the ghost of the Williams to try to get a pass done. I haven't seen anything like this before. Mo Solver is up into the lead of the race, but through some very sci-fi means here, it's like he had an Accelercharger or something to allow him to warp through his opponent. I have seen crazy things here in TFR, but that might just be one of the craziest I have seen in my entire commentating career. So that is a very, very tricky. But, I mean, I'm curious to see what the stewards are going to think about that. Because, I mean, no damage was done. It's not like he just drove into the car and then just wrecked everything. So, I think that'll be clean. Ooh, a bit of a bump there. The 3-time champion getting bumped around this time by the last season's champion of Amadi. He's going to deliver himself into P3. And that Williams is struggling on those tires. The wet tires are definitely not the tire to be on anymore. It's definitely intermediate territory right now, as Seb in the span of 2 laps has lost 2 separate places. So it's definitely intermediate territory here. We're going to drop down to P10, It is CJ versus Keezy, both drivers with 3 seconds of time penalties. Actually, I think Keezy has a little bit more. I think he's got 6 seconds. We'll actually check the penalties real quick. Okay, no, so Bora is the one that has 6. I knew somebody had 6. Bora does have 6 seconds of time penalties. And we saw this in the F2 race earlier, too, is that we did see quite a few penalties going ahead and just being given out. It does tend to happen sometimes, but ultimately that's racing, and Imola is a very tricky track for trying to get through track limit violations. I mean, how many qual laps have these drivers lost during just during their best possible laps, and then just track limits just kind of puts a nail into the coffin of their lap times. I've seen it. I mean, I've done it before. It's why Imola is probably one of my least favorite races to drive on. But it is one of my favorite to commentate, as CJ gets a massive rocket ship launch. Past Keezy there. He's up into 9th. What a pass for him. Let's check down to the Aston Martin here of Finley. We'll check in on Finley here as D sets the fastest lap of the race. The Aston Martin now trying to chase down the Visa Cash Out Racing Bull of Kevin Cow here. We'll see if the number 76 Aston Martin can go ahead and get it moved here down into the final 2 that's almost 90-degree corners. They're not quite 90-degree corners. They're close, but not quite. So we'll see how this one does tend to play out. Up into P6, though, there might be a really good battle developing here between the 2 PSR drivers of Mustafa and Bora. They may be part of the same stable, the same esports team, but here at TFR, they are for racing for 2 separate teams. It is Haas versus McLaren, and you'll definitely see these 2, even though they're good friends, I'm sure, behind the scenes. They're teammates behind the scenes as well. But here on the battlefield of the TFR circuit, they are not going to go ahead and give an inch whatsoever. These 2 are going to be fighting tooth and nail, trying to get these positions here around this Imola circuit. I mean, you might as well try to use those intermediates for all they're worth, because, I mean, the rain has slowed down quite dramatically since we started this race, but it is still coming down. There's definitely that dry line forming. You can see it there. The dry line is 100% forming. We'll see if Mustafa can go ahead and get a move done here onto the McLaren. Not really the easiest parts to do it. Finley gets a 3-second time penalty, so that's going to hurt his chances quite a bit. We'll see how this is going to play out. Mo Solver is going to go ahead and get the fastest lap of the race and sending it around the outside. The outside becomes the inside line, and that's a pass done. And actually a pass for the podium spot here as Poole goes ahead and gets ahead of Seb. Good stuff there that we just barely missed. So we'll see how the rest of this is going to play out, because there's even a battle up at the front potentially developing here too. Does Seb have an answer though? Because Seb is still on those wet tires. So Seb is going to be dropping like a stone here. But it's interesting because the tires are pretty fragile for the wets. I mean, when you're in intermediate conditions, these wet tires do tend to fall away pretty quickly, but then you have the case of the intermediates that fall away pretty quickly into dry. But right now the intermediates are loving life, as Mustafa is now going to think about trying to get a move done. But Seb has lost he's already lost substantial time. He's already about a 1.5 seconds slower on this lap. So we'll jump back up here towards the front, because the championship leader has caught up to Mo. So we'll see what's going to play out here. You can see now that Mo is going to go ahead and just drive on to the wet line here to try to cool off those intermediate tires. That's a strategy that wouldn't really work in the dry conditions. So with the intermediates and wets, if you see the lighter spots on circuit, then you can just go ahead and just drive across them essentially, and it'll cool off your tires a bit, leading to less tire wear, which tire wear in F125 is absolutely diabolical, to say the least. Comparing it to F124 at least, because in F124, actually we saw it last season in F124, and actually it's this driver we're currently sitting on board with Imadi. He made a set of intermediate tires around Shanghai, which is a track with very high tire degradation. He made these tires go, I think it was about 27 laps roughly, in what I called a generational drive for that Grand Prix, and pretty much did a no stop on intermediates. So if you try to do that here, your tires will probably explode about halfway through. So good stuff here from these drivers to try to keep these tires alive. We're going to go ahead and jump down here to the battle for P10, the final spot within this top 10. A driver who did really strong last season in a Mine Master. He has done fantastic. He did really good last season. He was an F2 and F1. The only driver that I am aware of that has actually competed in both divisions. Currently sitting in P11. He was unsure about racing in this Grand Prix, but ultimately decided to jump on in. Mustafa now is fighting for the podium spot. Mustafa does have that podium spot as Mo Solver's into the pits. So a lot of drivers are now trying to make their pit stops here. So interesting that it's not actually giving us the pit thing. There it is. So sometimes F1 just does tend to do some really interesting things. We'll jump on board with Epic the Animal for a bit as he's going to go ahead and make his way through. So the rain has stopped here. And there's a caution. Is it the Williams? No, I think it... Yeah, it's Seb. What's happened to Seb here? Seb has fallen way down the order. He must have had a bit of a moment. I was looking to see if there may be a puncture on the Williams. Doesn't look like it. The Williams still looks like it's still got all four wheels functional. But those wets have got to be screaming right now because it's definitely... We're actually reaching the crossover point for the inters going on to the dries, let alone the wet tires still being used here. So he's committing to this one stop. But how long is he going to commit to that? A lot of the other drivers who made their pit stops have opted to go onto the hard tire. And I can tell that the servers are having a bit of a heyday today because Seb is definitely not on 0 lap old wet tires. They're about 13 laps old. And he's into the gravel. A bit of a wide moment there. But those wet tires are really just not having a good time. You really get no grip on those tires. So that is... It's going to be a tricky one to see how these drivers navigate. We'll jump on board to the highest... Oh, actually, Mo is going to be the highest rated driver currently on those hard compounded tires. So, about half the grid still running, or actually a majority of the grid. And, oh, here's some issues that we were running into. Bora's out of the session. He's going to retire into the pits. Seb is retired. He's into the pits. So, the driver who was on pole position earlier is out of the race, into the pits, and that is his race done and dusted. So 2 drivers have retired around the same time period. It has been a pretty wild race, I must say. We've already seen 2 retirements, 13 laps in. Hopefully those will be the only 2 retirements. Ideally, no retirements would be the ideal strategy, but sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And now we're going to see P2 and P3 come on into the pits, and that's contact! Contact in the pit lane for Mustafa and Poole. Poole just had the rear end of him just slammed by Mustafa. So Poole is going to go ahead and switch to the hard tire compound. He's going to go ahead and... I think all these drivers are going to try to make it to the end of the race now. Anyone who's pitting now from the intermediates onto the hards, I mean, I think anybody who's pitted in is going to try to make this all the way to the end. We'll see battle for the lead here as D is trying to chase down Mo here. Not exactly battle for the lead. It did take a while for the intervals to update, but that's just how it goes sometimes. They did pit in at different times. D did pit in. He's going to have 2 laps old, fresher tires by the end of this race, so... Everybody now onto the hard tires. Take a look at the positions gained. Mustafa up 14 positions in that Haas. That is a very good job here done by the Turkish driver. Keezy is going to go ahead and get the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far with a 1:27.90. Very good lap there from the Mercedes man. And I think now we'll probably see some battles kind of spark up here soon. I think CJ and Mindmaster are going to go out of here sooner rather than later. This is our closest battle on track at the moment. But Mustafa is closing in to Poole just up the road. In a podium, what would be a podium battle. So we'll kind of bounce between these 2 battles here. As Mo Solver goes ahead and jumps into the lead of the fastest lap competition with a 1:19. the first 119 of the session. And these lap times are definitely going to start trickling down as the track dries out a bit. And speaking of Keezy earlier, he's going to try to put pressure onto the Sauber of Jean-Claude. He's going to be pretty close, not close enough to really make a move stick around here. As Mindmaster now sets the fastest lap with a 1:18.577. So Mindmaster really turning on the afterburners here in this race. We'll see how this is going to go ahead and finish up, because, I mean, there's still a lot of racing left to go. We're not even halfway through this Grand Prix. We're close. Not quite halfway through yet. Next lap will be the final lap of the first half of this Grand Prix, so... But I'm going to be curious to see if these tires could actually make it to the end. Now, potentially, what these drivers could do in this situation is they could try to run until maybe lap... the ideal strategy would try to get these tires to the end, but some drivers could have a bit of an audacious strategy, as we see O-Wise has not had a fun time. He has had a bit of a moment himself. He is still down into P16. Imadi now drops a 1:17. And as we were saying earlier, these lap times are going to go ahead and start trickling down. Mustafa is going to get the fastest lap now again. So I think that the fastest lap moniker is going to be trading around to quite a few different positions as Mustafa is closing that gap. DRS wasn't able to take a few laps ago. We'll get a check again. There's only one DRS zone on this track. So interesting stuff here between these drivers. I was looking to see if we'd see a DRS activation here at some point, but not quite. And wow, look how close Mustafa closed that gap to the back of Poole. I mean, it almost looked like he was going to run into the back of him as we get this beautiful helicopter shot here. Just watching these drivers go at it, these very skilled drivers. Poole was a reserve driver, so he's not even a full-time driver here this season. And he's on track to get a podium, but Mustafa is definitely going to want to go ahead and put an end to that fairy tale story. Returning to the league, jumping into a McLaren, and then jumping to pole position or podium. Apologies for that, but I mean, there's still a lot of intense racing action that could still happen here. I mean, this battle is going to be very, very close, as we see Mustafa still trying to get a move done on the Poole. Poole moves to the side to break that slipstream now. It's going to be a tricky one. We'll see how this is going to work. And he's through. The DRS is indeed open, and he's right on through. Mustafa using all that DRS to go ahead and claim the position. The Haas is up into third, up 15 positions, as Finley and Keezy get more time penalties to add to their troubles. I wonder if we may see some more retirements. I hope not, because I hope these drivers do stick it out to the end. Racing can be a race of attrition sometimes. Mo, the race leader, gets a track limit violation. Oh no, this changes the whole dynamic of the race. Mo Solver getting that 3-second time penalty allows D a fantastic chance to still win this Grand Prix. And there's an Aston Martin. Who is it? It's Finley. Finley down to P15. Had a bit of a moment there. P15 for Finley. It has been a rough Grand Prix for him. He's missing the entirety of that front wing, and he's going to have to come into the box to go ahead and try to fix that. Oh, he slides again into the gravel. Oh, almost comes across into O-Wise. And that could have been game over for the both of them. That was a very unsafe rejoin from the Aston Martin. I mean, I'm glad that there wasn't any contact aside from Finley in the wall potentially. But that could have been so much worse. And did he just go wide again? Yo, he's very wide and he spins. That's got to be his race done and dusted. Oh no, he's going to pull out here. Oh, he was ghosted, but oh, that was right in front of the two race leaders. Definitely their hearts sank to the bottom of the Mariana Trench as they whip around that corner at about 150 miles an hour just to see an Aston Martin just kind of parked there. Whew. I honestly think I would have screamed if I was D or Mo Solver. Just coming on the corner, especially when you're fighting for the on-track lead, and then you just see an Aston Martin just kind of there. I mean, even though it was ghosted, it still can be a heart-stopping moment. I mean, it was a heart-stopping moment for me, and I'm not even driving the car. Yeah, Finley's got to come into the pits. This might be the end for him. He might just call it a retirement. 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He is retired into the pits, so that is retirement number 3 of the Grand Prix. We have lost Bora, Seb, and Finley. Our 3 drivers that we have lost so far here at the San Marino Grand Prix here at the Circuit de Imola. We'll see if there's going to be a change for the lead here, because it is, I mean, there's a chance for some really strong laps here from D. We'll see if D can go ahead and put on more and more pressure. We know D is quick. We've seen some very strong drives from D over the seasons, and he is in the championship lead quite convincingly right now, so it's all to play for here. And we have another one. Keezy is out of the session. He's into the pits. That is retiree number 4. 14 drivers left to go in the race. And we have had several retirements here so far. We're going to stick on board with this battle between D and Mo Solver. We'll see if he can go ahead and get it with the DRS. The DRS is activated. He's going to turn on the afterburners. He doesn't have a lot of battery, though, in that Red Bull, so he's going to have to try to catch up. And is he going to get it before Tamburello? He does not, and he's going to have to go ahead and sit in P2 for a little while longer. Very strong battling here between the Red Bull and the Ferrari. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more here in this San Marino Grand Prix. I mean, it's always a good time coming here to TFR. We've had some very strong races this season, and Imola, in the real world, it is considered one of the more boring tracks to watch on the Formula 1 calendar. Some drivers like it, some hate it, and fans can pretty much go either way on that. But you cannot deny that as a esports track, this track has provided some really excellent racing here. We're going to drop back down to P9 for a moment as Gagley is going to go ahead and try to put some pressure onto Mindmaster, who himself is up 7 positions. We'll see if the Racing Bull can go ahead and put some pressure onto one of the standout rookies from last season. Gagley is going to go ahead and try to put some pressure on. The number 19 is going to go ahead and try to... He's going to go ahead and keep piling on the aforementioned pressure, trying to force Mindmaster into getting a track limit violation, because that would really bring this race right to him in terms of those positions. So we'll see. He's going to go ahead and try to make it through, but he's just having a bit of a wheel spin there, so not exactly the best time. He does crucially stay within DRS range. As speaking of DRS range, D has almost fallen out of DRS range. He's going to claw it back a bit. This also might be due to a setup difference. We might see Mo Solver running a bit of a more balanced setup that does favor the corners a bit to counteract the low downforce setup that D might have. I don't know. I haven't seen their setups. I'm not sure exactly what setups they're running. They could be running low downforce, high downforce, medium downforce. They could run. There's a wide variety of things that they can run, but I think in general, kind of like in the real world actually with the Malta Grand Prix that happened yesterday, where the Red Bull was wicked quick on the straights, but the Ferrari seems to have a bit of an advantage in the corners, which I know it was between Max Verstappen and the McLarens at Monza, but here we have Mo Solver and Imadi, a very entertaining battle here for the race lead. He's going to close that gap up once again, just unable to make it happen. And once again, Mo Solver is still in the lead. He's doing a fantastic job managing that pace in that Ferrari, trying to go ahead and keep the Red Bull just behind, just trying to make sure that nothing wrong happens here. I mean, Mo Solver's already got a penalty, but what he needs to do is stay at least 3 seconds ahead of Mustafa if he still wants to stay, or actually 3 seconds ahead of Poole if he wants to stay in contention of that podium. So, I mean, taking a look at that, that's going to be a pretty easy task to accomplish, because, I mean, it's 6 seconds between Mo and Mustafa. And even with the penalty, he's still going to be about 3 seconds ahead of Mustafa. So Mustafa, at best, is looking at a P3. But he gets a track limit violation. So even then, even if Mustafa does get a 6-second penalty, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to affect him at all. Take a look at the penalties here. So quite a few drivers have 3 seconds of time penalties, with CJ having 6. Bit of a tough time in the Alpine. And we go side by side here, going into Tamburello, but D just did not have enough move, or just not enough space to make that move. The door is shut. He didn't want any Girl Scout cookies. Mo Solver staying in the lead of the Grand Prix here, as we have 10 laps left to go here. Lap 23 to 32, the final 10 laps of this Grand Prix. Jean-Claude now joins the penalty club. He gets a 3-second time penalty for his troubles. And I wouldn't be surprised if, well, we've already reached the fact of the majority of the grid having time penalties here. We're going to go ahead and just chill on board with Imad here for the rest of this lap. And we're going to go ahead and take a step back. We're going to go ahead and hydrate. Be sure to hydrate. This is your official hydration announcement of the stream, or of the VOD, I should say. And we'll be right back. Alright, we are back here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed that very short onboard of the pushing Mo to the limits, maybe trying to force him into another penalty, but just a little bit further down the road, B29 is going to go and try to get a move done on the VNT. We'll check back on that battle in a moment, but this battle up here is getting pretty spicy. Actually, we'll chop back to this real quick. And around the outside, sending a dive up the inside. B29, it's getting close. It's getting dicey between the Aston and the Mercedes, forcing him into the gravel just a little bit there. Phantom Fox now joins the penalty club. There is now about 5 drivers who have yet to get a penalty here out of 14 remaining cars on the track at the moment. So B29 is going to go ahead and give it another go here pretty shortly. We'll see if he can go ahead and make something happen. I mean, the car ahead of him has penalties and B29 does not. So as long as he stays within about 3 seconds of him, he's going to be in a very good spot to take or get a top 5 finish here at Imola. Now we're going to head back down to the DRS zone, where D is going to go ahead and try to turn on the afterburners, activating the DRS. He's going to see if he can go ahead and get the move done finally. The gap is closing. He's going to go in and try to fire it up the inside. The Red Bull just not having enough room. But Mo Solver had to take a bit of a wide line into the gravel, and now the fight is still going on. Mo didn't hear a bell, and he's still going to fight tooth and nail to keep that position away from D. And this has just been a fantastic battle between these drivers here. The Ferrari is doing an excellent job trying to keep the Red Bull behind, and he's been doing good on that front. I mean, I don't think they're even of any danger of Mustafa really jumping into this fight, because Mustafa's got 3 seconds of penalties, so even if he does catch up, he's not really in a good position to really get anything happening here to try to jump up some spots onto the podium. I think he's pretty safely in a podium spot, considering earlier on, or considering that pool is about 10 seconds off. But we'll see here. B29 did get the pass done onto the Aston, or onto the Mercedes, and now he's going to go ahead and try to make a good run here. As they go over the curves, we're going to check back in with our fight for the race lead. He's not as close as he was last time, so I think he'll be able to get closer, but I think that's about the best he can hope for. And that is pretty much about the best he can hope for here. We'll see. I mean, I think these drivers could go to the end because they're down to... We don't have a lot of racing laps left here to go. We are closing in... I think we got about 7 laps left to go here in this race. So you got lap 26, then 27, 28, 29, 30. So yeah, about 7. 7 laps left to go, including the lap we are currently on. And I think this is going to go down to the wire. But I think D is going to go ahead and win this race. He may not get it on track. But here's the thing. Just based on the position D is in right now, he doesn't have to push super hard. He doesn't have to try to get it done on track. He would like to, though, because he is a racing driver and a champion. So he would love to get that position. But he's going to get it regardless due to penalties. So let's go ahead and check back in on just how many position changes we've had. Mustafa's still the biggest mover so far. He is up 15 positions in that P3. As we have a ghosted Alpine just behind the Red Bull. DRS is going to open yet again, and I think at this point D just needs to kind of save battery and really just try to harness that battery. And Poole gets a 3-second time penalty, so that's going to make his day a little trickier. Even if he did catch up to Mustafa, he'd have to pass Mustafa now. But Mustafa's been pulled away a pretty nice gap. So I mean, the only thing that could really make this race even more dramatic is if D gets a penalty, which I have seen D get a penalty before, but it's not super duper common to get a penalty here. So we'll see. I mean, things do happen, but we'll see if we'll just see how it tends to go. Because I mean, anything can happen in racing. The only predictable thing about racing is that racing is unpredictable. You can predict that something unpredictable is going to happen, but that's pretty much just about it. As much of a paradox as that sounds, trust me, it makes at least some kind of sense. I know we've been showing a lot of this battle between D and Mo, but it's been the closest battle on track all day. We've seen some other really tight battles here, but this battle for the lead has just been very strong. As we're down to the final 5 laps of the Grand Prix. D has got the speed, he's got the slipstream, he's got the inside, does he got the move? They go side by side into Tamburello. But once again, the Ferrari just ekes it out. Just ekes it out ever so slightly using all the curb humanly possible. But look at this. It's going to be a send up to the inside. A bit of wheel-to-wheel banging here and a bit of a spin. Oh no, they're both off the track. Both cars off the track, and that was so aggressive it caused me to lose frames. Oh, that could have been so much worse. D is ahead on the racetrack, finally. But it took a little bit of Red Bull Rallycross and Ferrari Rally Racing to go ahead and get that done. But now look at this. Mustafa is pretty much right up here, so he could honestly take the battle to P2. He could jump up another position. He could get up 16 positions here in the Haas. And they're going side by side again. D and... oh no, they're both into the wall. Both drivers are into the wall. Drama here at Imola. Both the Red Bull and the Ferrari both into the wall. Mustafa is now in the lead of the Grand Prix. He started in 18th position. Now he's in the lead. This might be one of the most generational drives I have seen here at TFR. This is fantastic. If you're the Haas, of course. Really unfortunate that it came to that, but honestly, I think that contact between the two was just kind of inevitable. Between the Red Bull, between the Ferrari. Oh, you got to feel for both of these drivers. You can tell that they were pushing every limit humanly possible. And then, with about 3 laps to go actually, because that happened last lap, it all just crumbled apart. You really got to feel for these drivers. You really do. And I'm sure there's going to be penalties dished out post-race. So we'll see how that plays out. We're going to actually jump back here for a bit because now that that battle has pretty much come to its overly climatic end several laps too soon, now we're going to go ahead and see Kevin going to go try to put pressure on the OYs, the Racing Bull, and the Williams going ahead and going at it. Not sure if we'll see any position changes here. He's just out of DRS range, but he is going to still get a good slipstream, so he'll be able to close that gap. He is within, well, he's kind of in and out of DRS range, and I think that's because OYs was burning a bit of battery to try to keep that Racing Bull out of DRS range, so whew. I think I'm still trying to recover from the incident earlier with Mo and D. That's definitely going to be talked about, and I'm sure the fireworks are going to probably kick off after the stream, or after the VOD, I should say, after the race overall. But you really got to feel for these top or for P2 and P3 right now. In other news, if B29 can catch up to about another second, he can get a P4 finish here. He could get P4. The P3 is still to be decided because D is within 3 seconds, but he's losing time due to that front wing damage he sustained in the earlier contact with Mo. About 3 laps left to go here in the race, soon to be only 2 laps. But, oh, that was crazy stuff here. Up around the midfield here, it is the battle for P10. It is Mindmaster and Epic. Epic is going to go ahead and try to claw back that gap. Although he does have penalties. We'll check through the penalties again as Kevin gets another one. So here's where the penalties sit right now. So there is only a handful of drivers. 4 drivers are without penalty. Mindmaster, Gagley, B29, and D. Only drivers without time penalties. So, on the penultimate lap of this race, it just really all kind of kicked off here. I mean, so much has happened. And we see Epic getting close. He's going to try to have an Epic send up the inside of Tamburello. He's going to go ahead and turn on the afterburners. The DRS is open. He's closing the gap. He's trying to get up to Mindmaster, but I think Mindmaster is trying to deploy some of that battery. He's not going to have the opportunity. He's going to try for it, but the ghosting saves him. And D and Epic get extra penalties. So now it really doesn't matter. So on track, I mean, everybody but Gagley and Mindmaster have penalties. And Epic has a bit of a slide into the gravel. He took another trip into the gravel. So that might be his chances of, well, I mean, his chances of P9 were anyway. We're kind of in trouble. And actually, Jean-Claude needs to gain about an extra 4 seconds roughly to jump Epic and get 2 Saubers in the top 10. But we got to talk about this man right here. He got a penalty, and he did indeed get a penalty, but he started in last, and now through tomfoolery and shenanigans and contact in a tight battle for the lead, he inherited that lead, and he's pretty much he hasn't looked back since. The Haas driver has been quick all day. And the Turkish driver is going through Imola for the last time. We'll see how it's going to play out. We'll see if he can keep it within the white lines. Because otherwise Mo could win this on track still. But he's only got a handful of corners left to go. The brutal chicane towards the end of the circuit is the last one. Oh, that kind of solves that one. Mo is going to get additional 3 seconds of time penalty. So now it's 6 seconds of pens. So, I mean, that's going to pretty much negate anything that Mustafa could manage, or any penalties Mustafa could manage here. But he's only got a few more corners left to go throughout the circuit. He's going to go ahead and put the foot to the floor, the pedal to the metal. And he's going to turn on the afterburners. And through the attrition from P18 to P1, Mustafa F. Salvi wins the San Marino Grand Prix here. Round number 9, F1 TFR Esports. It is done and dusted here. Mo Salver comes home in P2, although there's definitely going to be some penalties associated with that more than likely. D finishes in P3, although that might change due to some pens. We'll have to see. Poole comes home in 4th. B29 comes home in 5th. And then we have a few more cars making their way across the line. Phantom Fox is going to come across the line, P7. And Gagley is actually going to go ahead and jump him, so he actually finishes P8. Jump back here. Epic is going to go ahead and come across the line. He's going to come in P9 on track, but he's going to lose a position to Mindmaster, who will take that P9 spot away. Jean-Claude is going to be the next driver to go ahead and come across the line. He'll be done in P11. P12 will be O-Wise. CJ gets another 3-second time penalty, so he's got 9 seconds of pens. That's going to make his day a bit trickier, but yeah, just unfortunate to say the least. So he's going to come across the line, P12 for the Williams driver. And then we have Kevin just behind. And last but certainly not least, it is going to be CJ, who does come across the line shortly after. And man, what a hectic San Marino Grand Prix we just had here at TFR Esports. The celebration is here. It was a very strong drive from Mustafa. He does take P1 here. Starting in 18th, making his way to the front. What a drive. 17 positions gained. And that is, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better race for the Turkish driver. He's going to go ahead and share the champagne with everybody. It was a very chaotic race through multiple different weather conditions. We saw the wets, we saw the intermediates, and then we saw the slicks. Drivers went on the hards all the way to the end. He also got the fastest lap as well. So, all right, we're going to go and make one last run through our grid here. Mustafa goes ahead and takes P1, and the fastest lap to go with it, a 1:16.599 for him. And then it is Mo Solver, Imedy, Pool, B29, VNT, Gagley, Phantom, Mindmaster, Epic the Animal, Jean-Claude, O-Wise, Kevin Cow, CJ being the last of our drivers who finished the race. And then our retirements of Keezy, Finley, Seb, and Bora going out and rounding out our grid for wrapping up this race. So that's going to wrap up everything here at TFR Esports. I do appreciate your patience. Unfortunately, we did miss qualifying. So unfortunately, this VOD will not have qualifying in it due to some unfortunate tech issues on my end. Hopefully you guys do enjoy this VOD upload. And we'll be back next week when we take on the streets of Singapore. Once again, my name is Patrick Coleman, aka Rekkas. I've been your host and commentator for the Grand Prix here today. And we'll see you guys next time. Have a good night.